Do you wish you could get virtual attendees to turn their cameras on? Is engagement the number one issue on your virtual meetings? Do you want your meeting to be the most engaging virtual meeting? Well, welcome to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. In this podcast, we'll talk to the top people around the world in virtual meetings and give you, the listener, the best ideas to host engaging virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Now, let's welcome your host, the author of the #1 Amazon hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings, John Chen. All right, it's Tuesday. And we're doing good things here in Seattle. If you see on Thursday, I'm actually working on a live stream. We're doing a luau here in Seattle that's going to benefit Lahaina. And I have sponsored the live stream in the Zoom. So if you want to attend, I'll make sure and put a link in the chat. It's called Love Lahaina Luau Seattle, if you are looking for it. Should be great. We have great performers. We have a Hawaiian ukulele, a famous player, and a comedian. And we're going to get a direct report from my very good friend, Marcia Sharp, who is on the board of the Maui Food Bank, by the way. It's what we feel is one of the top ways to contribute, as then we know a good portion of the money will go directly to the people in Lahaina. Mahalo, which is, of course, Hawaiian for thank you. For those who are just tuning in, make sure, and wherever you are, hit the subscribe, share, like, or make a comment. We're here, and we'll actually answer your questions online if you're here with us. Also want to just share that coming up next in October 23rd through 25th, we'll have the Engaging Conference where we're sharing the secrets of planning engagement. You can get a free ticket at engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON for a conference. And these amazing people will all be there and all presenting 10 of the top experts I know. And while you're here too, why don't you hit the subscribe? We got a new episode coming and dropping every single Wednesday at engagingvirtualmeetings.online here at the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Now, this gentleman is online sometimes even more than I am, which is great. He has an amazing company. He schooled me in business networking, showing me all the places that I could be online. Let's welcome from OBN Events, the one and only, oh, where's my music here? Well, the one and only Alex Hitt. Let's bring in Alex. Hey, Alex.
Hey.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Very excited to be here.
There you go. Let's see. Now, where's your hat from? Your hat is from Florida, right?
Yeah, the University of Central Florida.
Beautiful. Now, did you graduate from there? Or you just wearing the hat?
I didn't. My grandfather was the president of UCF for 26 years. I grew up going there every summer from the time I was 0 to 26.
Wow. So, well, congratulations. And amazing. So, Alex, we got a chance to meet online. You are with OBN, which stands for Online Business Networking. For my friends who don't know you, who need to know you, because some of us do a lot of networking now. And by the way, I do want to help us crush later in this program. I want to help you. I want you to help crush this notion that some people believe you can't network online. I think you are the antithesis of that. But for my friends who don't know you, Alex, do me a favor, introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Well, I'm an online entrepreneur. I have a company called OBN Events. We host the best events online. That's what we say. We have a lot of free events throughout the week for businesses. And I'm also a large social media content creator. I have over 45,000 followers online. I have a podcast. I have a YouTube channel. I have a TikTok. I'm pretty big on LinkedIn as well. So just putting out a lot of content, doing a lot of things online, and helping a lot of people do the same.
Thank you so much, Alex. Now, how did you get started in this? Was this a pandemic thing, or were you like OG and doing this all before the virus showed up?
No, it was a pandemic thing. I really appreciate what you're doing for Lahaina. I lived in Hawaii on Oahu for 3.5 years. I moved there 2 months before the pandemic to work in hotels. I was an international award-winning hotel manager, moved there to Hawaii, got the best job of my entire life. And on my first day, I got laid off because of COVID. I didn't qualify for unemployment. You know, I was out in a new place, brand new $2,000 rent payment right there on Waikiki Beach with no job, no money, and had to figure out what to do. So I became a online entrepreneur, you could say. Did a couple of different things, but eventually became an online entrepreneur and just been rolling with it ever since.
Well, talk a little bit more about that journey. And number one, too, I'm a member of Meetings Professional International, and so I know what that business is like, and that's great that you're in that business, right? Of course, it was probably one of the hardest hit by COVID, and so many people had to figure out how to deal with it. How did you find that this was your thing out of like all the things that you could try at the time?
Well, after I got laid off, I started driving food delivery because I thought, like everybody, hey, it's going to last for 2 weeks. So I started driving the food delivery and putting a lot of things on credit cards, thinking, okay, I'm going to go back to my high paying hotel job here pretty soon. And then at about the end of 2020, I realized I'm probably never going to go back to hotels ever again. The industry's gone, that career path is kind of at a dead end. And so I said, let me become a real estate agent because, what else am I going to do essentially? So I did that. And I realized when you're a real estate agent, clients don't fall into your lap. You got to go out and find them. And I became a salesperson and I started selling through social media because we were on lockdown still.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd go and I'd knock on people's doors and they'd be like, what are you doing? Like, there's a pandemic, go away. So I was like, okay, I have to do things online.
Yeah.
So in between food deliveries, I was plugging away on my real estate social media. And in 9 months as a realtor in Hawaii with zero connection, zero paid advertisement, I was able to sell 3 about $1 million houses. And
What?
I made more money in my first sale than I made the entire previous year in 2021. So when I became a real estate agent, I also, because I was doing a lot of networking and outreach marketing, I found out about online business networking. And so I started going to those online business networking groups, telling everybody, hey, I'm a real estate agent in Hawaii. Do you want to buy $1 million house in Hawaii? And I sold 0 houses through online business networking. Because if you go to online business networking, who's there? It's not people with $1 million. I'll just say that. It's, usually salespeople looking to make a sale, right? But I said, wow, what a great opportunity. I have there's a lot of people here. If I had a product that could help every single person, this would be an amazing warm market. This would be an amazing lead generation strategy. So it took me a long time to figure out what that product was. And then in 2022, I started teaching people how to do what I did for my real estate business on social media. So I started coaching a lot of realtors, coaches, network marketers, online entrepreneurs on what I was doing on social media. And it like blew their mind. I thought it was pretty common sense stuff, but they're like, wow, this is amazing. Could you teach me more? Could you teach me more? So like I said, I grew my social media coaching business in 2022, actually larger than my real estate business.
Wow.
2023, to kind of catch everybody up to where we are now, I moved out of Hawaii. I now live in Utah. And I have shifted the business a little bit, still heavily focuses on social media, but I have a specialty, you could say, in these online events, because that's actually where I made the majority of my business in 2022, was not through social media, was actually through these online events that I was hosting and promoting through social media.
Well, I'll share this fact with you too, Alex, which is like, and on the business side, right? It's only 4% of the companies in America make $1 million in revenue or more. And that doesn't even count the net profit. So like even $1 million, revenue business owner can't buy your $1 million house. So that's kind of like, you're kind of like
Right.
shooting for the needle in the haystack. But I love your transition through there to figure that out, because some people have hit on all those different stages, right? They either hit purely on real estate. I mean, so many people went into real estate during the pandemic, right? And then the second part is like social media. We've all seen the TikTok influencer who now can make a living doing it. But again, that's like the same thing. It's a very small percentage of people who do that. But I want to know, what is the difference to this live online meeting versus social media for you that you think that makes it better for you to create a business?
Well, social media, it's either pretty far ahead of the sale or it's after the sale. The online event, it gets them this close to the sale because we're hosting essentially an online sales presentation. And we're inviting people with that understanding that that's what they're coming to as well. So I always tell business owners, or I talk to a lot of business owners, hey, the only way that you're able to sell is through a one-on-one Zoom meeting. Not only is that not very efficient, it's not always appropriate. If we were to hop on a call and we just met and I was to open up a 100-page slide deck, you would be bored to tears and you would resent me. Now, it's not to say you shouldn't give your sales presentation, but an online event is maybe a more appropriate place to give that presentation because people can come and go as they please. If it's not for them, they don't have to wait, to politely leave after 30 minutes. And you can also sell one to many. So it's more efficient in that way too. So a lot of reasons why I talk about online events. So that's one of them. But a lot of advantages to online events. I mean, look at Alex Hormozy. Alex Hormozy, do you know who Alex Hormozy is?
I have to peek a little bit. Tell us more, so I know.
He's a really popular social media content creator. He actually created, you could say, an entire genre of short form video called Hormozy style videos. You've probably seen him before, but he's one of the most successful online marketers out there right now. And he released a new book called $100 Million Leads. His previous book was called $100 Million Offers. It was very, very successful. So for his new book, $100 Million Leads, how did he release or announce his new book? He released it with an online event. And why? Well, I love the online event because it gives you something to promote, something to market. The online event also acts as your lead magnet. Okay. Yeah, Alex Hormozy, big content creator. So that's his book there, $100 Million Leads. He had a massive online event about a week ago, had, I think, 600,000 people live on the call, released this book, huge success. And then, so like I said, we market the event. It's our lead magnet. Guess what? When we're in the event, we make sales. So it's a sales event. We also record the event. So we make content out of it. And then we can follow up with the event. Hey, did you attend the event? Did you see the event? Here's the recording of the event. Or, hey, come to my next event. So the online event is so multifunctional. I say it kills 10 birds with one stone because it gives you content to market. It gives you something to present. It gives you a deadline. It gives you an audience, a live audience, so they can ask you questions. I mean, a lot of really great things. And I think it's through social media. It's an aspect of social media, but it gets people bought in, committed, engaged to a way higher level than kind of passively watching you on social media.
Well, I love that. By the way, Brian Bruce on the LinkedIn says "Go Knights." So you got a fan, you got a friend or a fan or alumni out there. It does. A lot of people have discovered this. So again, I'm a follower of Tony Robbins, and then with Barry and Blue, who created their massive studio, and their big thing is just high ticket offer. You get 600,000 people there, and you can get a percentage of them to buy into the next level. And that's what Tony Robbins Live was doing that. And he was pretty good at it, I thought. I mean, he has a well-formed, valuable system for doing it. And he found that online was even better because he could put 45,000 people. Like finding a stadium for 45,000 and all the logistics and expenses with it was a lot. And so, the 5 million he put in his studio is actually like not that much compared to, producing a 75,000 person event that you couldn't do during the pandemic. And he made it in an engaging way. So I love all your insights with that. And if I could ask, if you don't mind, what's the product, right? What's the thing that people is actually converting for you?
A lot of different products. I mean, with the events, we have a lot of specialty events, and those events actually create the highest quality lead because we have a very specific event for a very specific audience. We invite a very specific group of people, and they show up and they're bought in and they're there to participate and to ask questions and be, talked to or to talk to the person. So a lot of different style of events. The product that I sell is that I'll run your event for you. So we at OBN Events, we create your event, we mastermind with you for an entire month. What's the perfect event for you and for your business? We then market the event. So we get the butts in the seats for your event. That's a big problem that a lot of people have is, hey, I have an idea for an event. How do I get people there? We help with that. We help with your presentation. We co-host the event with you. And then afterwards, we do even all the follow-up and appointment setting afterwards. Wow. We just really kind of a white glove, full service online event marketing company for businesses. But we sell a lot of kind of affiliate offers or joint presentations in our events as well.
All right. The butts and seats is a lot of new people who get into online just think they can post on social media and instantly have an audience. And maybe in the beginning of the pandemic, that was true. Because again, I got 5,000 people for a class on like how to run virtual meetings better. But, now people are competing again back with the in-person world and other things. But I think, I'm pretty sure one of your keys to your strategy is that customization, right? Specialty people, find a niche, right? A lot of speakers like to say there are riches in the niches. And even if you have a small audience, it doesn't matter as long as they convert because they're in the right place with the right message at the right time and the right product. What is one of your top ways that you get butts in seat if you were like working with someone who was one of your new clients?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I think people get a little bit confused on their actual archetype of who they want at their event. At a very basic level, who you want at your event is somebody who does business online and who will show up to your Zoom event. And so people get a little bit sidetracked on, oh no, I want this type of executive. Maybe that executive is never going to come on Zoom. Is that executive going to come on a Zoom call at 10 a.m. in the middle of the day?
They're too busy.
Maybe they're too busy. So you really got to think, and that's part of the process is like, who's the archetype, who's going to show up to an online event to begin with. And so I've been over the last, 2.5 years tracking who does business online, right? Who's actually going to show up to an event. So that's really, really important. And if it's for a different audience, maybe outside of that, somebody who doesn't come online, well, maybe it has to be at a different time. Maybe it has to be on the weekend. Maybe, Alex Hermosi, he had an event. He's largely B2C. He had his event on Saturday at about 10 a.m. Mountain Time or noon Pacific. Okay. So I thought that was really insightful. Okay. So this guy does mostly B2C. It's a little bit B2B, but he's mostly B2C. He did it on a weekend.
Right.
That was interesting.
Because it's available.
Right.
Right. If they're working, then that's actually so. At least in my research, of when I hold something that's work related, I'll go Wednesday. 11 o'clock has statistically been shown to be the
Yep.
greatest time to read emails, put somebody in a seat, or something like that. But a B2C is totally different because you got to like evening actually works really well, and then weekends probably work really well, right? Because it's a personal thing.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
All right, so Alex, and maybe you like Hermosi only because he has the first name Alex, right? So Alex, when you finally get online, what has to happen for you to be engaged in like somebody else's meeting, business networking, or pitch?
So the pacing of it is so important. The pacing is almost everything. And if done correctly, they don't even notice it. But why do people come to an event to begin with? Why not just watch a YouTube video? They came there to talk. That's why they came. If they didn't want to talk, they wouldn't be on the meeting, likely. And maybe they are waiting for their opportunity. So I always make sure that I'm very cognizant, very sensitive of the vibe or when people are tuning out. And I'm watching the Zoom room very intently and looking for people who are like clicking off, zooming out, and always trying to re-engage them. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see through online events is people, they have an hour-long presentation and they wait till minute 59 to let anybody talk or ask a question or to even sell their product. There should be constant kind of checkpoints within that presentation, within that thing to check in with people, ask questions, call on people. Hey, what was your opinion on what was talked about in your, right? So that hosting, that managing, that pacing, getting, the audience to engage, so important.
Do you find your clients, like, if they don't have this training, feel like they have to fill every 60 minutes themselves? Have you seen a client like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, people, if they're not maybe experienced with online events or something, it can be a real kind of nerve-wracking experience, to try to manage a group, especially if, I had an event with 130 people on it. And if you don't have a lot of control over that meeting, you can get out of hand very, very quickly.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
inmates will run the asylum, and it's
Right.
also, but it's one of the engagement techniques is to hand control over to the audience. So Alex, I love that because you and I agree on the at least the general concept here. Right? I tell people all the time, I design half of my meeting for the other person to talk. So like
Right.
in a 60-minute meeting, I will sprinkle in at different times, but like 30 minutes of that should be you, the audience talking, not me. And the reason why is this, right? It's impossible right now for Alex to be disengaged. Alex will look really weird if he like tunes out, takes his cell phone, starts texting because he's talking and he's talking to an audience of 130 people plus a qualified host. And so it would look rude. So it's amazing what that you get in that engagement part, and quite often too, what I find, Alex, is that the audience has something sometimes better to say than I do, right? They have something unique, insightful, a different angle. Even the controversy is good. Even if you and I argue, Alex, then at least the group is watching it going, how's John going to deal with this? The host, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that is also something that I teach in one of my classes that people don't recognize that sometimes you need controversy or conflict if you want engagement because like there's a fight, right? The default is everyone looks and everyone goes fight, right? Fight, 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 and so we'll all pay attention to it. So even if it's not the way exactly you want the attention, it does work. And I love the constant checkpoints that you have on there. Now I would love to know too, so you've probably watched QVC in your lifetime, right? The quality, like they sell
Yes.
online, and they have a whole back room full of like crazy charts while the thing is running, which is like this is like killing sales, and they can talk to you in your ear like, okay, Alex, you got to push this harder, right? And, they would tell you stuff like that, and they discovered all this stuff. So I'm kind of curious, what are some of the key indicators you're looking for when you're monitoring a Zoom? And what have you found? Like, are there any hidden gems that you found? Like here, I'll give you one that is well, advanced polls, right? Advanced polls is one. People don't know that Zoom has advanced polls, which now allows text, free-form text, instead of just the 10 choices I gave you. And we play a really cool game called Who's That? Which is, we ask for something. What's something that's really cool about you that most people don't know? And then we'll take some of those responses and bring like 3 or 4 of them up and try and have people in the room guess who that is.
Mhm.
And so that's like an engagement technique. So again, what are the key indicators you're looking for, and like what's some of the 1 or 2 gems that you discovered that maybe you didn't know when you started?
1 or 2 gems. Definitely co-host, having co-host in the room to manage the attendance. Because if you're looking at who to admit to the room, who to mute, who to kick, somebody's got to kick people if they're being disruptive.
Yep.
Having a couple of co-hosts, manage that is really important.
Good.
I'll say that again, like the vibe, the energy in the room, the pacing of it is really, really important. Who's in the room? I mean, that's people, it's kind of an interesting thing, but people compliment me or they say this was a great event because of the people here. So managing and moderating and maybe not allowing some people in to maintain the vibe or the appearance of that room is also kind of a key strategy. Some meetings just aren't for people, for some people, and you don't have to let everybody into your room just because it's posted online. So that's kind of another kind of secret or tip for people is really manage the energy of that room. And if that means not allowing some people in, it's you don't have to let them in, right? It's not your obligation, right? So
That's an interesting part. It's kind of like a private, like restaurant. You have the right to refuse service to somebody if you want to. And quite often, there are times when, if you have enough of the right audience, Alex, it's a risk to bring in a new, somebody who's got like balls in their name, right? You have high odds is going to be a bomber, or
yep,
just like leave them out.
yep, yep.
And
Another thing you can do is restrict by country on Zoom. So there's a setting within
yes,
Zoom that allows you to restrict people from
yeah.
Antarctica, if you don't want people from Antarctica there, wherever country you don't like, you don't have to have them there. So that's kind of another key. I do business in America. I don't really do a lot of business overseas or with, people in other countries. So a lot of my meetings, USA only. And that kind of will cut out a lot of people who the meeting wouldn't be relevant for.
Interesting. I've seen that. I've never used it in this way. So that's a really unique aspect, especially again if you're trying to attract large audience. You have open vibe meetings. Let's see. What is? Oh, so my next piece then is too. So Alex, you probably know and probably value the last 10 minutes in any of your meetings. So I'm kind of curious, what do you think about? All right, you are pacing, right? So therefore you're planning the whole, let's pretend like 60 minutes is your deal. So in the last 6 minutes, what does Alex think about making sure that happens in those last 6 minutes?
Definitely if it's some sort of networking event or people came there to meet other people, making sure that everybody has the ability to sign in, to connect with the people. I put the sign in form, and my calls to action are very simple and I repeat them a lot. So at the end, it's like, what's my final call to action, or what are my final 1 or 2 calls to action? You can't complicate it too much. What I do is the pacing of mine is usually tiny bit of an intro. I get them into the activity as soon as I can. I start to try to give them that wow moment. Like, within the first 10 minutes of them being in that room. Because after 10 minutes, people are, hey, I'm going to go to a different meeting or I'm going to do something else. So I try to give them that, like I said, wow moment as soon as possible. And then we'll come back to like a breakout room or come back to kind of like me in front of everybody. And then I'll do a call to action, right? One specific call to action, go do this in the chat right now. I'll give everybody a minute, go do it right now. Okay. Everybody goes, does it. Okay, great. Everybody did it. We're going to jump back into our activity. And at the end, it's kind of just a repeat of that. Or maybe we do a little bit longer of a presentation if we're selling a product at the very, very end. But I do, like I said, I don't wait till minute 59 to sell a product. I'm usually introducing something in 5 minutes and then giving them an opportunity to either opt in or even set up a sales conversation after the first 5 to 10 minutes. Because people don't need an hour to understand a concept.
Right.
10 minutes, and they're like, this is for me, this isn't for me.
Well, interesting. Have you heard of a new tool called Talkadot?
I haven't.
Okay, and I'm not paid by anyone. I'm not getting compensation. I do have a referral link, but it really not the reason why I got it. It's really cool. This guy, Arel Moody, is a speaker who created this for speakers. And so let me just share a little bit about what it is. So like at the end, right, I'm now at about 10 minutes to go. I put a QR code. It has some code on there, and I ask people to take a very short survey, 2 minutes, if they want more or something like this. What's really cool is that Alex, he has a very specific script that I've like modified to like personalize on my own. And what I did with this is like here, this is a presentation I gave in Dallas, and this is great. One is that it generates this social media right after you're done. It says 100% found this valuable. 100 want to hear me speak again. 98.9% found me engaging. Right. And that's kind of my deal. And then on top of that, Alex, you get this. You get testimonials, right? This is what I got from the conference. The most engaging session of the conference and the best session I've attended. But what's really key to this, Alex, on the back end of the system, everybody who answered, you get an email address. They also, it tells you whether they want to book you again as a speaker or if they have a referral for you.
Mm.
And that's pretty genius, right? I'm just testing. I'm about 4 or 5 events in, but I'm pretty convinced that I think I'm going to make this a key part of my business. And I know many other top speakers have already run like 6,000 attendees through the system, and they're convinced that the paid version is worth it. So that is my latest tip or trick in terms of getting, feedback from the audience, because sometimes it's hard. Like most of the time I used to get it from chat. There's not a clear call to action, and I don't know who wants me, right? I do want to know like who wants me to speak somewhere else if there's another opportunity, but you can build your whole business off of this and then get invited to other stages as opposed to just having your own stages. So
I think that's great. I'll have to look into that. That'd be a great resource. One of the things that I've been doing, you reminded me there, was after some of my free events that I have, like my networking events or some of the master classes that I do, I say, hey, if you'd like to leave me a video testimonial, stay into the end. And we're already on Zoom, so all I got to do is click record, and I get a lot of people who are still kind of on the high of the event who give me just an amazing video testimonial. So that's one of the things that I do just kind of for myself after the event, of ask for that video testimonial.
And that's a great piece too, Alex. So have you heard the term connection before content, Alex?
Yes.
So basically, connection before content says log in early to the meeting, right? And talk up the audience, or have somebody else, maybe your co-host, talk up the audience if you're the big speaker, right? Leading up into that, right? Because it starts them talking, right? Like, hey, unmute your mic, Alex. We just want to say hi to you, make sure your mic's working today. And then once people understand that this is a meeting that I can actually unmute and contribute to, the whole thing becomes more interactive. But the second one that I've called is called consulting after content, which is if you plan to stay up to 30 minutes after your keynote, you can answer all those questions, right, without having a Q&A period inside of your thing. Like one of my TEDx coach friends, she says, don't ever end on Q&A. You can do Q&A, but you got to end on something else, which gets to one of our core concepts why I asked you about the end is end on a high note. Right? End on some kind of high note, whether it's reflective or showing your product does something really cool. It actually came from product market research. When they used to do 60-minute demos with a product, if you can architect a high note in the last 6 minutes with your product, people were more likely to buy. Right. And virtual is exactly the same way. So I love the saying afterwards. And then people too, you clearly say, if you got to go, log off so they don't feel obligated. And then if you want to stay, I'll stick around and answer some questions, and then testimonials pour forth, and you just leave the recording on, and everything's great.
That's right. Yeah. And then everybody hears too, all the people saying, wow, this was the best event I've ever attended. And they kind of remember that too, right?
And that's a great part too, Alex. We have some of the people that I've worked with too, and myself. We had that comment. This is the best virtual meeting I've ever been on. That's the high gold star
Yep.
for what's going on. Okay, so for you, Alex, in the last 3 years, what's been the best virtual program that you've been on that has not been yours?
Um, I really like one of the places that really inspired me in my business was a networking organization called Veets. Veets, VEETS.io. Veets stands for Virtual Meets. It's run by a guy named Matt Dubois out of the Bay Area. And he really kind of showed me a better way to do online networking. I was very familiar with online business networking, but I saw a lot of the inefficiency or a lot of the kind of the issues with other calls. And I always thought Matt put together a great call, and he really showed me kind of early on the power of online networking. So Evits had a really large impact, kind of when I first started in the online networking space.
That's great. I have not heard of Veets, and I will definitely check it out. And that's what I love, Alex. You have been a great collector. Again, I was a software test engineer at Microsoft, so one of the jobs is to like explore every feature available about something, right? And then by doing that, quite often you can find out what's the stuff that's really valuable, right? And sometimes there's a hidden feature, right? That's the other thing I've done in Zoom, which is I've gone through and I've gotten every feature. By the way, have you heard about this Content Creator Studio in Zoom yet?
No.
You got to check it out because I think it's only in Zoom events, so it's a little hard to get access to, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come to webinar. But you can create multiple scenes, right? And have the ability to switch through them quickly. And those scenes can include any element from Zoom, which is like multiple other speakers' windows. You can have or you can actually have two people sharing their screen at the same time. So I
Mm,
think that like there's some stuff we were talking about. Like imagine there's two speakers and they have two slide decks and they're battling each other, right? Like going back and forth and maybe run a timer on them. Like each of them has 3 minutes to like present something. I think there's some engaging stuff that can really happen there that was not possible before in Zoom. It was really difficult. So things that you can do too, like in spotlights, let's say there's the two of us and there's five other people on a panel, and switching between the two is really slow. You have to do it one at a time. You can just have that scene and just immediately switch to 5-2, 5-2, and have all these preset things so that you can do a lot of stuff pre-planned. You can do it very quickly.
yeah,
So take a look for that, Alex.
I will. I will.
So the last piece here is you've been online now for 3 years. You have it, and these 3 years are dog years, right? So it's like 21 years plus of virtual experience. And I'm thankful because no one would buy this stuff beforehand, the virtual things. And now, you have an audience who can participate. Because before they could participate, but the odds of likelihood that they would was really low. It was like 3 to 5% of the audience. Now, 100% of the world knows how to get online somewhere unless they've been under a rock. What does Alex think the future of virtual is, in the next 10 years or so?
Yeah, I love the thinking about what's next for online events, because I do think it is the future. I think for business, online events, I think it's just better for business. It's way more efficient. I
Yes.
mean, way less overhead. So I think they're going to continue to grow. I think that there's a lot of kind of people pushing for VR events and kind of the VR world. I don't think that's going to happen for a decade, at scale, really. I think the Apple Vision Pro will kind of move more people into that direction, but I still think it's kind of a long way off. I think Zoom is going to, be a big tool for businesses now and into the future. And I think more people are going to be using online events to sell for a long time to come. So I think it's a growing space. I think there was definitely kind of a drop off, after people started going back to work, but I think you're going to see it continue to grow over time.
If you've never seen technology adoption curves, right? They're like the early adopters, and then there's this huge bump, and then there's a drop after the reality sets in that said cool technology doesn't do exactly the promised land. And then either there's two things happens, either it dies, right? Or then it maybe sometimes hits the second wave, and the second wave is bigger, right? Cell phones were kind of like that. Remember the big
Yep.
block and brick, and like people had to have it, and then you realize that it was too big, too clunky, right? Not reliable enough. So they kind of died off, and then the technology just got smaller and smaller and better, and now who doesn't have a smartphone? That's the crazy part. There's more. It crossed over. There are more smartphones than PCs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's when you really knew, because now more people too. And I'm sure, Alex, do you have like a collection of attendees? They're just tuning in on their phone, not their computer.
Yep. Yep.
So they can be anywhere. They can be taking a walk and watching you. They could be driving and watching you, kind of, sort of, hopefully not participating, but or being the passenger in the car. But it's possible,
Yeah.
and we've seen it, so that people can do that.
I'll,
That's amazing,
I'll,
Alex.
I'll say this too, I think the space too, for people who are interested in doing it, it's a space big enough for all of us, because smaller events, once you start getting into large events, it starts to get completely unmanageable. So like my ideal size is between like 20 and maybe 50 people. And so everybody could start their own online event, their online community. And you're not going to be pushed out by kind of the big guys, because when they start to grow, they start to become unmanageable and less effective. So I'll just say that. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a great comment, Alex. Because some people are intimidated and they think you see a Tony Robbins, you're like, I gotta have 45,000. You have no idea how much
Yeah,
tech and people and stuff
yeah.
is behind 45,000. I have a karaoke group, Alex. Every Saturday, I host a free karaoke, 7 to 10 p.m. Virtual singers from around the world, right? We had the Philippines, New Zealand on, and that's the other secret. Your reach is now immense if you want it.
Mm,
And then the
mhm.
second part is I wanted like 1,200 singers is what I thought. And then in the end, you don't, right? I wrote an article and I said, I got 12. And I said, that's the 12 I wanted. They're totally engaged. I actually know them. I have met multiple of them in person, right? We actually have a real human connection. We know something about each other. With 12 people, it takes about an hour to do a rotation. So everyone gets to sing 3 songs. And right when it gets to 20 or 30, it's like the bar you went to. You get to sing one song and you might as well leave because you're never getting back on stage.
Yeah,
And it's so amazing in that way that if your goal is to build community, and it should be, by the way, that the smaller intimate venue is actually the better way to go. Thanks for that,
yeah.
Alex. I really, really appreciate that. All right.
That's a conversation for the next time, is using online events for community building online. It's huge. It's a huge, space for people to grow into. And you're totally right. People should be building community. But thanks so much. Yeah, appreciate it, John.
Outstanding. Okay, the last piece that I have for you, Alex, if people only remember one thing from this interview, what do you want it to be?
Come to our speed networking on Monday at 11 a.m. At noon Pacific. Okay, so here's what I want you to remember. Every single Monday for 30 minutes, we have speed networking. You can go to obn.events. And my promise for there is you'll meet more people in 30 minutes than you meet all week. That's my goal for that.
Okay,
So
30
speed
minutes.
networking very fast, meet a lot of people, do a lot of networking. Monday, 30 minutes speed networking. Go obn.events.
Dot events, which is in the link here when Alex here. If you look at the description there, Alex, I haven't been there, and I'm going to be there, and I'll definitely give you my own personal review of what I think what's going on. Alex, thank you so much for your time, and really, I love your insights. I just want to compliment you too, because as an entrepreneur, I redesigned my whole business that first year, and you did too.
Yeah.
And
Well, I learned a lot from you, John. You're definitely an expert in this field, so I learned a lot from you as well. So thank you.
thank you, Alex. Again, hopefully I'll see you at my conference, and I'd love to hear what you think about at my conference coming up October 23rd through the 25th, the Engaging Conference. Thank you, Alex. Make sure and click the link, OBN Events. Thanks again, Alex. All right, this is John Chen. We completed yet another Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Make sure and catch all the episodes at engagingvirtualmeetings.online, where you can subscribe on one of 13 platforms. By the way, my number one platform is Spotify. Number 2 is the Apple Podcast platform. Thank you so much for all the people who have downloaded. If you want to be the next guest, right, all you got to do is go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you can be the next guest here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Until next time, we'll see you online later. This is John Chen, the author of the Amazon #1 hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings. I personally want to say thank you for listening to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. It is my passion to help you eliminate bad virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with all of the latest ideas. Hey, I want to meet you. If you want to talk about a virtual meeting challenge, or if you want to be the next guest on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, just go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. That's engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, MEET, and find your best time to meet up. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you online.